So actually, improvisational skills we're talking about at the moment as you join us today. Thank you for joining us. We're live at 5. Maria Franzoni here and
James Taylor, welcome everyone here just now. Actually, just before we came on, because you asked me, you said, James, you've got a new jacket on today. I haven't worn this jacket in ages. And what was the nice thing about wearing this jacket, finding this jacket in a cupboard, was that I found all the things in the pockets. Did you ever have that when you, I don't know, if for guys it's always suit pockets. We find all this stuff. I don't know, what's it for ladies? Is it?
do you not empty? Well, no, we don't really have pockets because the pockets are
Yeah,
always in the wrong place, really, for ladies. I mean, you can imagine, right? For me, it's handbags. If I find a
handbags.
handbag and I think, oh my goodness, look at that receipt or what that there. But I was hoping that you would, when you put your jackets away, you'd empty them and then send them to the cleaners and have them all.
Well, this one did go to the cleaners.
Mm.
In fact, it still smells a bit stagey, if you know what I mean.
Oh,
But I did find it. The reason I just mentioned this, we're gonna have a great speaker on at the moment. But I actually found a lanyard for the last speech that I'd given where I was wearing this, and then I added it to my lanyard pile. Some of my lanyards from last year, and I've suddenly realized virtual speaking gigs, we don't get lanyards anymore, do we?
No, we don't. We don't.
We need
So
to have
listen,
we need to have
Tom
some
Rick
virtual
just said we've
lanyards.
swapped places. He doesn't know if he can cope. Hang on a minute. Let's see if I can sort that out for you, Tom. Let's see.
Oh,
There
there we
you go.
go.
Is that
There we
better,
go.
Tom? Are
There
you
we go.
happier there? You're happier now. Um, I don't know how that happened, how we swapped places, but it's the wonders of technology. So, listen, would you like to introduce our guest? Because I'm very excited about this.
Yes, and so well, I'm very excited about this guest that we have today. We are joined today by the wonderful Jim Carroll. Jim Carroll is recognized as the world's leading futurist, trends, and innovation expert with a massive blue chip client list. For more than 25 years, Jim has shared his insights with more than 2 million people in attendance at his events. His global clients cover virtually every sector, industry you could possibly imagine, like the World Bank, Volvo, NASA, PGA of America, Walt Disney Organization, the World Government Summit in Dubai, Microsoft, hundreds and hundreds more. Amazing. But this year, Jim has been busy providing insights from a state-of-the-art virtual broadcast studio, which features high-end video production, multiple camera angles, multimedia special effects, online interaction, audience polling, panel discussions, and much, much more. And we're going to get a little bit of an insight into that today. So, Jim, is Jim there?
How's that?
Jim,
Any,
how you
any
doing?
better?
Perfect.
Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
It was
Now,
11:59 Toronto time. I was in here at 22 and everything was working, and then boom, and Maria was having a heart attack. So we're good now, though.
We're great. Jim, I think rather than us talk about all of this stuff, I think we're going to show, don't tell.
Yeah, thanks, Maria and James, for having me in. I thought I'd start out by giving everybody a little bit of a tour of where I am. I'm actually located in Toronto, Canada, and I'm in my basement in, quote, my green room with a whole bunch of technology. There's about 7 computers, a whole bunch of lights, a whole bunch of cameras. I'm finding people really like these behind the scenes tour shots. They get a bit of a sense of what it takes to do this. So I hung this little camera here yesterday, as sort of a bird's eye view of my space, a side view, and a longer shot to sort of give you a sense of the scale of the room. My working space here is actually just about 12 feet by 13 feet. So working in the context, and there's a shot from overhead. In the old world, I was on great big beautiful stages like this in Las Vegas. Production quality was paramount. And I went into a lot of these early Zoom calls, and look, they weren't good. I think what we did was we did a disservice to our clients. I sort of characterized it that a lot of speakers were like, they were like hostages in a hostage video, droning on with a PowerPoint, trying to do what they did in the old world. It doesn't lend itself to this new world. So my whole mindset was, we need to do a better job. We need to have something that is visually compelling. We need to have different forms of delivery. It has to do with our mindset. I talked a lot about what I called the 7 stages of economic grief when COVID hit. People went into the shock phase, the denial phase, the anger phase. I moved on to the acceptance stage right away because I realized I was going to be here for quite some time. So I began working to build this stage set. I also realized attention spans were different. Look, a typical goldfish today has a longer attention span than a human. That's a reality that existed before COVID. And the impact of COVID with this virtual space, I mean, your grocery shopping is only a mouse click away when you're watching a virtual presentation. So we have to work really hard to grab your attention. So I keep innovating. Look, I'm trying to figure out how can I walk down these stairs. I've got an actual stage I can walk out on, all as part of this process of trying to reinvent. But here's what I know. Virtual events have become like television. This is like broadcasting. It's a different format. It requires different forms of interaction. It involves different methods of reaching out to the client. And what we know is that we're going to be here for quite some time. Consider the news of where we are today. I know certainly in North America, we are intensely impacted by what's going on south of the border with the election. They're starting to get a little bit more clarity. We know that COVID continues to rage out of control. So we're going to be in this virtual space for quite some time to come. So I've been in the business of providing leadership insight. That's my job, on the future, on trends, on what comes next and what we need to do about it. And I'm now having to do this in my virtual space here. And so I'm working incredibly hard to make sure I can do this, because I mean, I'm in the business of providing reality in terms of what is happening, where we're going, what comes next. And what I'm sensing is my clients are starting to realize they need to get into this virtual space. So I've put together actually a speaking topic, 2021, what to expect when your future is unexpected, in which I'm putting together very detailed industry expert insight on what is going on. The event industry, the conference industry, is kind of interesting right now. They're trying to hold events in which they're going back to normal. In Orlando, we just had a conference where they were trying to bring people in with all of the safety protocols and everything. Well, look, they had 3 positive cases. We can have all the safety protocols in the world for our in-person events. It's still going to be an issue. So we are here for quite some time. So if you're a meeting planner, if you're a speakers bureau executive, if you're a speaker, if you're someone who is arranging for leadership insight in your organizations, we're here for a long time. And so you've got to talk to folks in the industry about what is happening. We know that the reality is that we're going to be here for quite some time. So I'm innovating, I'm working hard, I'm making sure that I can do all the things we need to do to take ourselves into this vast, new, complex world.
James, what have we got to say about that then?
Well, no, it's fascinating. I mean, it's because I know so much of your work is in the US as well. You're based in Canada, but you work a lot of those large Las Vegas conferences. So is what you're saying that you really truly don't believe that a lot of those bigger, larger conferences are gonna come back in 2021?
Not at all. I think, you know, if you look at the way the numbers are spiking, if you look at the long, complicated rollout of what is going to be involved with the vaccine. I mean, take the Pfizer vaccine. A whole bunch of people got excited. There's a vaccine. There's a vaccine. It needs to be stored at minus 70 degrees Celsius. We don't have a cold storage system that does that. And so the process of getting a vaccine out there, once it's through the trials of getting people vaccinated, getting the logistics in place, it's not going to happen through 2021. We're stuck in this virtual space for a long time, and it could be well into 2022. The thing is, organizations still need leadership insight. They still need innovation insight. James, that's what you do. They still need future insight. That's what I do. And they still need people like Maria to guide them into the relevant leadership content that, you know, shapes their world.
Well, that's encouraging, isn't it, to know that the 3 of us are still needed. That's really good.
I feel wanted all of a sudden.
That makes me feel a bit better. So Jim, can you share with us some of the insights you're sharing with your clients then? Because as you say, they're needing some vision into the future of what's going to be happening. What sort of insights are you sharing? What are you seeing? What is our future going to be?
Well, it's really on an industry by industry perspective. There's sort of broad trends and there's industry trends. So very good example, Salesforce, the massive global tech company, had me open a virtual global insurance conference a couple of weeks ago. And I actually filmed for them in my broadcast studio a 15-minute customized video clip, sort of done with Hollywood style special effects, specifically on how has the insurance industry changed as a result of COVID-19 and what can we expect going forward. Just 2 days ago, I spoke at a massive retail conference on let's consider what we've learned in the world of retail and how will that help us deal with ongoing challenges into 2021. The biggest issue for retailers, should they ever get back to in-store interaction, is the safety issue. Brand, you know, safety is the new brand. So there's a lot of general trends where organizations are they're in this state, I call it aggressive indecision. They're sort of waiting for things to finish, and you miss out on a lot of opportunities if you do that. And then there's a lot of very specific, very real disruptive industry trends which are going ahead at a furious pace.
Jim, you said something very interesting to me the other day where you're being contacted by clients who are saying, we've got this conference where we want to bring you to some island somewhere or some big city, maybe in North America, and it's going to be in January. How have you been responding to them? Because you've got this amazing virtual setup. I'm guessing with all the COVID stuff, you're still reticent about traveling. How are you ensuring that you're closing the deals, assuming that you want to go and speak at these kind of events? And where are you thinking about that blend between the in-person and the virtual?
Okay, so I'll entertain the offer with the client, but I also have a COVID clause. And I say, look, it's highly unlikely you'll actually be doing it. So I can do virtual. I sort of sell them on both concepts.
You have these kind of COVID clauses. So is this like a souped up force majeure type of clause?
Yeah, and basically saying if I don't feel comfortable going, I'm not going. And I think most clients in the early days, it was funny watching meeting planners because they were kind of like, well, we'll be back soon. We'll be back to normal soon. And then, they began to realize that, well, we're not going back soon. We're going to be away for, quite some time to come. I think they're getting a bit more of a reality check in terms of what is going on. People's expectations of how quickly this is going to get fixed are way out of whack with the reality of what is occurring.
Yeah, I was going to say, Maria, how are you dealing with it? Because you're getting clients coming to you all the time. They might have a conference, let's say, and they're thinking about doing something in their American client, let's say, and they're thinking about doing a conference in Paris in April, and they want to you and they want to bring a great futurist like Jim in, for example. How are you talking to them about live versus virtual and ensuring that there's something as a fallback?
Oh, it's interesting because we're doing something similar to Jim in that we're always saying that this may have to go to virtual or you may have to look to postpone because there is no certainty at the moment at all. You cannot be certain. If you're doing a virtual event, you can be certain of it. If you're doing an event which is in person, you can't. And I completely agree with Jim. I think it is a lot longer than sadly we all hoped. And what I wanted to ask you, Jim, is will we ever go back to normal or is there going to be a new normal for us?
It's kind of funny. When 9/11 happened, I wrote an article for a US publication called Successful Meetings. It goes to meeting planners. And I said, at the end of the day, people, the buzz then was that we were all going to go virtual. Everybody was scared of terrorism. We wouldn't be doing events anymore. This was 2002. But I said, at the end of the day, people wanted to get together with their peers at the end of the day for a drink, a beer, a glass of wine. We crave that human interaction. So events will come back, and we still do. We will eventually go back because we crave that human interaction. We will for some events, but I think to a degree, the corporate world is discovering the power of virtual leadership insight. I mean, I can go into a Fortune 500 corporate event, which has been most of my work for years, and give them a concise overview of how their future is going to change without all the massive complexity that came from getting everybody to Vegas or Palm Springs or Orlando or Morocco, where I was with the World Bank last year. So I think this times it's a little different. The technology is more mature. We're having a behavioral change. We're discovering what it takes to make it work. Despite some sound glitches, in doing this type of thing. So I think we will go back, but I think there will be a vast portion of which will stay online.
Mm.
And how much of your when you're working with clients, how much are they asking you, we want you to come and give this keynote? How much are they asking you, we want it pre-recorded and we're just going to play it as live? And how much are you actually doing live? Because I know you can do both, but is there a split between those two at the moment?
Most have been live. The Salesforce project was really unique in that I've got a global overseas video editor. During the day, she's a producer with the Russian version of Dancing with the Stars, and at night she does video freelance work for me. And I think what I witnessed with that was it's a 15-minute powerhouse video, which plays into the attention spans. Attention spans are totally different. So Salesforce had me set up, with this 15-minute video, what is going on with insurance. Then they spoke about what they were bringing to the insurance industry, and then they brought in two CIOs of global insurance companies, one in Hong Kong, one in Europe, to talk about what they were seeing on the ground. And so they compressed that into 1 hour. I think there's still a lot of open thinking out there as to what works. What do we need to do? What makes this work? Different formats, different experiments, different methods. I know when I'm doing a keynote, I break it up into 4 or 5 minute chunks, followed by Q&A, followed by 4 or 5 minute chunks, followed by Q&A. We need to shake up the format, because this is not a talking head here droning on for an hour, and it's not this god awful Zoom experience, you know, that everybody just absolutely turn themselves off. It's something entirely different, because the audience is different. Their grocery order is just, you know, a mouse click away over here. So we need to engage them in a fundamentally different way.
Fantastic. And are you seeing any positives, do you think, for the future? Can you give us some positive thoughts?
I think people are coming back to 2021. I think what has happened is we've been through the 6 or 7 months of shock and anger and denial, and, you know, those 7 stages of COVID grief. And I think people are now beginning to realize, okay, we got to move on. It is what it is. And what's going to happen next year? So I've put this 2021 topic out to my speaker bureau partners and to the meeting planners who know me, and I'm working it on my website, and I'm going to film something in here in the next couple of days on it. And I think people are realizing, okay, we're stuck here. Now we need to align ourselves to the future. There's also what I call aggressive indecision, and that is people tend to go into a mode, and it happened with the 2008 economic downturn. It happened in 2001. It happened in 1995. I mean, I've been a speaker through a lot of recessions. They go into a state of indecision. We're not quite sure what's going to happen, so we're not going to do anything. We're not going to do an event. We're going to wait a while until we all go back to work. And now they're sort of like, well, we're not going back to work like we were. And we do need to understand what we need to do with innovation, which is James, or what we need to do with the future, which is me, or what we need to do with, you know, to motivate our team. Like, we need some outside help. So I am seeing some very real signs, at least here in North America, that it is beginning to come back, and that people are thinking and talking about it a lot more.
So you are mentioning about Q&As there. As people are watching this live just now, if you have any questions for Tom about this,
for Tom.
Why am I mentioning Tom?
Because Tom's making some is agreeing with the aggressive indecision. He loves
aggressive.
That.
That's right, aggressive indecision. That's I think that's possibly the phrase of the day, Jim. Aggressive indecision. So if anyone has any questions for Jim about the kind of setup he's going, please leave those in the question just now as well. Jim, one final thing I guess I had for you. You obviously had to go on a real journey here in terms of going from that traveling and speaking all the time to having that virtual studio set up. Has there been anything that maybe you kind of went into going thinking this was the way it should be, or how it's going to be doing these virtual presentations, that now you've taken a complete 180 on, and you're coming out from a very different perspective?
I can tell you after today, I'll have redundancy upon redundancy in terms of my mic setup. I mean, I've got an incredible amount of technology, and I've done a ton of events, and that's the first time that's happened. So that's kind of freaked me out. My plan is to keep innovating with the setup, keep innovating in terms of how do we engage the audience? How do we bring them into the show? I've seen a number of speakers, for example, Tony Robbins is the ultimate example, where he's got this giant studio with 1 billion Zoom screens that, you know, he can reach out and interact with folks. I'm sort of a mixed feeling of that, but I'm very much of a mindset that we're making this up as we go. But what we do know is that horrid Zoom experience did not work. I think a lot of clients got turned off by a speaker who looked like a hostage in a hostage video, and they were trying to squeeze some PowerPoint decks into here with really small stuff. It was awful. And I think our industry managed to infuriate our clients with bad production, bad quality product. And, you know, that's why we need to, you know, step up our game in terms of what we can do with online delivery.
So we have got a question. Somebody would like to know how to contact you, and I think we were going to share your website address where people can reach you, which I believe is jimcarroll.com. Is that right? I've got that right?
Yeah, jimcarroll.com, 2 R's and 2 L's.com.
Fantastic.
And all my virtual stuff is at virtual.jimcarroll.com. And then 2021 topic is at 2021.jimcarroll.com. And if you hit my site, I mean, for the speakers that are watching, I've completely virtualized my website. All the branding, all the images, all the artwork, iPad screens, me coming out of the screen, because you know, I concluded 5 months ago, I'm here for a long time. I'm 61 years old. I cannot see myself getting back into a room with, you know, 1,000 people until we really manage to tamper this thing down. And so far, society is not doing a good job at that.
And one of the nice things, which maybe people that don't know your work before or don't know you too well, you and I are on a number of Facebook groups together in terms of people, other speakers, other people in lots of different industries. I know like pastors and churches are all doing this virtual thing as well. There's a lot of people kind of really thinking about the virtual stages. And one of the things I was really impressed with you about, I mean, you are a top flight futurist speaker, getting booked by some of the biggest clients. But in those Facebook groups, you would never sense that, because you were always, you were just curious. You were really humble and open and asking questions, and like, I'm trying to get my lighting better on this thing. How can I do that? And I think that it was for new speakers coming in, if the tech thing is not, you don't feel as quite as strong with the tech, I think it was quite emboldening. And it just felt good seeing someone like yourself really getting your hands dirty and kind of going there and being humble and trying things and asking questions, and people coming in and responding. So that was maybe that's just about you, but I thought that was a very, very nice part of this communities we're building up just now.
I mean, this setup is like the ultimate geek toy, and it takes a lot of research, takes a lot of effort. And, you know, I can see a fellow here named Mark Prensky. He said, Jim, more than specifically than just horrible, the sound was very staticky. We heard you with distortion. You know, another fellow was severe audio distortion. That has me totally freaked out, you know, right now, because that's never happened before. So, I mean, I'll go into some of the Facebook groups, and I'll spend a lot of time here to diagnose just what the heck was that. And I did a process of recovery with some swift behind the scene action to reconfigure some microphones. This is all part of the voyage. I think that people are a little bit more forgiving of this virtual space with technical issues than they are with a big Las Vegas presentation, because look, you're at home and, you know, you have tech issues too, and you got to call your 12-year-old, you know, to come fix them. I mean, that's sort of the world that we find ourselves in. So we can't be overly confident in this. We have to realize we have to, you know, continually work at it and continually strive to get better.
So the question I asked you yesterday when we saw the setup, and I loved the tour, I asked you how big your room was, and you'll be surprised, actually, anybody viewing, that it's only 9 feet by 12 feet. So that's really, you know, because we have small rooms here in the UK, that's doable for us. So there you are. That's the actual size of the room. Isn't that amazing? I mean, that just blows my mind.
That's all I've got. And
so I could put a studio on my top, couldn't I, really, because I'm wearing the green. So Gary Hawes is asking, what have you used on the walls and the floor, and where did you source it? So obviously, I don't know if she means the actual green or if she means the actual pictures. So this is, you've painted the walls, haven't you? Yes,
I convinced my wife we needed to paint. The floor is actually a $15 sheet from Amazon. The program I'm using is called Ecamm Live. It's Mac based. There's actually 7 computers in this room. There's 5 lights, 2 microphones, one of which I switched out to. Some of the long shots that you see here, for example, if I zip over to this shot, that's actually, that side shot is from my iPad Air 2. And then if I zip over to that one, the overhead shot, I'm finding people are liking to be these behind the screens shots, and this one is actually my iPhone, which I hung it up on the ceiling a little while ago. So, you know, just a lot of use of gear there. You can see all the various computers and screens which are making this work, and there's the culprit, the audio board, which something happened with. So it's sourcing of a lot of material, it's listening to a lot of people, it's trying a lot of ideas, and just, you know, continuing to innovate away.
So when we saw this yesterday, I actually said to my fiance, I said, can I paint the walls green? And he didn't. He said, no. He said, no, you can't. So I'm not allowed to paint the walls green, but I'm going to find a workaround.
We're going to have to wait to St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, brilliant. So have we got any more questions? So Gary wants to know about the green. We've answered that question. So no more questions here. Have you got any more questions, James?
No, I love all you have all these virtual backgrounds that you're using as well at the studios, like those kind of CNN spaces as well. Is there any places that you kind of go to find those, or do you kind of use lots of different sites?
I've been using a site primarily called Envato Market to source a lot of them, but I have discovered sort of a secret source, a guy who's now designing them for me, because I think that's part of what I'm doing is, continually changing things up. So I'm going to do a little leadership show this afternoon. I'm doing a series, notable keynotes, lessons in leadership. And what it does is it takes some of my past keynotes, the lessons that I was sharing with the audience, and then put it in perspective, what can we learn from that as we deal with COVID? This afternoon, I'm doing a show around my work with the PGA of America, because it's golf week, it's Masters week in America. And for that, I went out and got a brand new stage set, just to change things up and, continue to innovate.
Fantastic. Well, fortunately, you have time to sort your microphone issues out for them. So that means you'll be okay. Thank goodness, right? And anything else there? So Shutterstock's a great source as well. Absolutely. And what was that you said? So we can share it on our resources. It was Envato Market.
Envato. And what we'll do is if people go to thisweekinevents.com, we have a link there to Jim's site. He's also his virtual site as well. Ecamm that he was mentioning earlier, and also I'll make sure after this we'll put a link to the Envato site as well if anyone wants to go and check that out. Fantastic. Well, Jim, thank you so much for coming on today. Absolutely wonderful. Hopefully, maybe usually I would say to other speakers, I look forward to us sharing a stage together, but in our case, I look forward to maybe sharing a virtual stage together in the future.
Yeah, it would be fantastic. So Maria, James, thank you for having me in, and sorry about the issues at the start. Like I said, totally freaked us out, but
hey,
to recover.
It's good when it happens to somebody as senior as yourself as well, you see, so, and as wise in the tech as yourself. It makes us feel a little bit better, doesn't it? Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jim. So if anyone is watching this just now, if you're an event planner, conference organizer, and you're looking for a great futurist to come and speak at your event, talking about what the future is of your industry, then one of the best places you can go is to London Speaker Bureau. They're one of our sponsors for This Week in Events. So just go to londonspeakerbureau.com. They represent some of the top speakers in the world, and also people that do things like boardroom advisory at the same time. They are the only global speaker bureau in the world. They have 18 offices, I believe now, or in 18 different countries around the world. So just go to londonspeakerbureau.com. There'll be information probably there about Jim and lots of other great futurists.
Absolutely fantastic. That was brilliant. So actually, we can talk about our techie tools of the week, because we like to have our own tools and gadgets and apps and things that we like to highlight. So what have you got for us this week, James?
Well, this week I've been geeking out. I've been building a lot of campaigns this week. We do a lot of outreach campaigns for clients, and so I've been building them out on our CRM that we use, which is called Entreport, and we'll have a link in the show notes as well. And it's a CRM. If you've heard about CRMs, a customer relationship management. And here's why it's really great. I love CRMs. First of all, anyone that comes to your event and hears you speak, they go in your CRM and you can do the follow-ups and things like that as well. But it's an interesting little case that happened this week where someone reached out to me asking me to go and speak at their virtual event, which is happening. They're based in Dubai. And they'd given me their email addresses when they emailed and did the reach out, and that automatically pulled it into our system. And I could automatically see from their contact record, they had actually attended an event I did in April of last year in Dubai for a completely different event, but I was able to track that and see who the speaker bureau was that booked me for that event. And then I reached out to the speaker bureau and said, hey, I've had this inquiry from this client. They attended this particular event because they were at that company at that point. I think they were in the C-suite of that particular company. They just moved to a new company. So I feel that, you give that to the bureau that, how the gig came along in the first place. And you couldn't do that if you didn't have a CRM. So it's a great way of tracking opportunities as you come into. So Entreport is the name of that CRM. What about
That's lovely. Maria? That's lovely. We love it when you give stuff back to bureaus. That makes us really happy. Well, actually, I'm going to be answering. So Greg Sanker, I think it was Greg, was it? Because they're all moving now. Was asking about. Oh no, it's Mark. Sorry, apologies. Mark Prensky was asking about my mic because he says my voice is super clear. Isn't that nice? So nice. Actually, my tool of the week is in fact what is holding my mic up. So you'll see my mic now. I have got a boom arm that I have attached to my desk. In fact, let me. My desk's a bit messy, but here you can see that I've got this boom arm attached to my desk here, and I can move it. I can actually pick the boom arm and move it, but it means that I don't have anything on my desk, and I can move and have papers and things. Whereas before I had the mic on a stand, and the mic is a Blue Yeti. For those of you who want to know, I love my Blue Yeti. You too, yeah. So that's a great mic. It's a very good podcasting mic as well as a good mic, and it's good because it catches you wherever you are. But what's really clever is my desk, which we might have to feature another time, moves up and down. You see, so when I'm standing, did you not know that?
I didn't know you had one of those fancy standing desks.
I've got one of those fancy standing desks. So I can, when I want to stand and present, I can just move everything just moves up, including the mic, you see, moves up, which is really cool, isn't it? But yeah, the Blue Yeti and the boom arm. So I'm very happy. It took me forever to set the boom arm up, though, I have to say. I had it bending the wrong way.
And we're going to have a link to exactly the boom arm that Maria's talking about. If people go to thisweekinevents.com, check out the resources there, and we're going to have a link to that, as well as everything else that we've been speaking about today. What other final little questions do we have for you? Everyone's been very quiet. You've been very...
Yeah, so we're mentioning, so Greg Sanker's mentioning all the multicam as well. I think we're talking about the different, somebody said you can use A10 hub. Listen, this is all Greek to me. They're talking some tech stuff here. So that's confusing me there. So somebody's saying that Ecamm Live is a Mac tool only. That's absolutely true, but the OBS is an alternative. So that's absolutely true. So shall we bring Jim back to say goodbye? And let's see what he sounds like now. Let's see. Shall we?
Let's bring Jim. Are you there?
I'm still here. Can you still hear me?
Yes. Yeah, we can still hear you, Jim. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your setup with us, and thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, good thing I didn't wander back into my quote green room and start changing my clothes, and you came back and caught me by surprise.
That would have been brilliant. That would be brilliant.
Thank you for having me in.
You're very welcome. Thanks very much. So bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone.
See you next week.
See you next week.